role as well as being a producer on this film. How do you find balancing the two of those?
Well, I'm not the type of actor who can act without producing, like you can't just put me in any clothes, any words, and have me step in and transform. And I used to be very insecure about that. I used to feel like an imposter because I would watch actors who were just shapeshifters. They could do it in any circle.
Hi, and welcome back, guys. Buckle up, because we have to talk about a legal move that just blew the Blake, Lively and Ryan Reynolds versus Wayfair lawsuit wide open in the most jaw-dropping way possible. This isn't just a new filing. It looks like a massive, possibly intentional, breach of a court order that has dumped the case's biggest secrets onto the public internet overnight. So here's what went down. Blake and Ryan's legal team, spearheaded by their attorney Kristen Bender, filed a formal opposition to Wayfair's request to seal certain documents. Standard legal procedure. But here's where it gets wild. As part of that filing, Bender submitted a mountain of exhibits that were explicitly supposed to be filed under seal, meaning completely hidden from public view. These exhibits contain the confidential, redacted deposition testimonies of two key people, Jamey Heath and Justin Baldoni. Instead of following the proper protocol, which is to file a simple placeholder page called a slip sheet that says filed under seal, the attorneys somehow uploaded the entire, raw, unredacted transcripts. We're talking about a staggering 643 pages from Jamey Heath and over 300 pages from Justin Baldoni. To be clear, this is condensed text, with 4 pages printed on one sheet, meaning this represents well over 1,000 pages of actual testimony. Every single word of it. And none of it was redacted. Not the confidential financial details, not the private business discussions, and most alarmingly, not the personal home addresses of both Jamey Heath and Justin Baldoni. Portions that Wayfair had fought to keep private were even highlighted in the document, as if to draw attention to them. Once this massive document package was uploaded to the federal PACER court system, it was immediately downloaded by third-party public access sites like Court Listener, which exist to share court records and split costs. The genie was out of the bottle in seconds. Hours later, the documents were finally restricted on the main PACER site, but the damage was irreversible. The fully unsealed depositions, with all that private information, were already in the wild, copied, downloaded, and disseminated. The implications are huge, and it's incredibly difficult to see this as a simple oopsie mistake. These were the only 2 exhibits in the entire filing that required slip sheets. For an experienced attorney on a high-stakes case to accidentally upload over 1,000 pages of the wrong thing, twice, strains credibility. It feels calculated. The irony is absolutely brutal. Just last week, it was Blake and Ryan's team arguing in court that unsealing certain names would put third parties in physical danger, requiring increased safety and security. And now, because of their own attorney's filing, the full addresses of the very people they're suing are sitting on the public internet. You can't make this up. So why would this happen? The official reason in the filing for including these massive transcripts was to reference just a couple of pages about a former employee named Shane Norman. But to use that as a justification for dumping 1,000 pages of testimony feels like using a nuclear bomb to kill a housefly. The real effect is that the entire world can now read the most intimate, damaging, and embarrassing details of this case directly from the sworn testimony of the key players. And let me tell you, what's in these pages is an absolute bombshell for Blake and Ryan's public image. Let's dive into what these leaked testimonies actually reveal, starting with the picture they paint of Blake, Lively and Ryan Reynolds behind the scenes. We have to remember this is sworn testimony from the other side, but the details are incredibly specific and deeply unflattering. First, there's a moment that speaks volumes about perceived self-image. In Justin Baldoni's testimony, he describes meetings that Blake Lively insisted be held in her personal penthouse office. He recalls that she, and allegedly Ryan Reynolds as well, used to refer to this space as Buckingham Palace. Why? According to Baldoni, she said it was because so many celebrities walk through there. The attorney questioning him confirms, "It's your testimony that Miss Lively used to refer to her office as Buckingham Palace?" Baldoni replies, "That's what her and Mr. Reynolds would call it." It's a small but telling detail that suggests a level of self-mythologizing that feels very at odds with their down-to-earth public brand. But the testimony gets much, much heavier than nicknames. It delves into serious allegations of pressure and intimidation. Baldoni describes a pattern where Ryan Reynolds would become enraged with him for not immediately acquiescing to Blake Lively's complaints or interpretations of events on the set of their film. A central example is the infamous linger on the lip incident, where Lively felt Baldoni's kiss during a scene lingered too long. In the testimony, Jamey Heath describes the dynamic in a January 4th meeting. He says when Lively would raise a concern and Baldoni would respond with confusion or denial, "But I didn't do that," Reynolds' reaction was reportedly one of intense anger. Heath testifies that Reynolds' message was essentially, "It doesn't matter if you agree with her or not. Just apologize." Heath describes Reynolds' demeanor as belittling and aggressive, stating it was maybe the hardest thing I've ever witnessed. Someone talking to another person with such belittlement. This paints a picture of Reynolds not as a mediator, but as an enforcer, demanding Baldoni capitulate to his wife's perspective regardless of the truth, which Baldoni and Heath found deeply unsettling and, in Heath's words, psychopathic. Baldoni's own testimony supports this. He recalls Reynolds angrily telling him in that same meeting that he had saved the movie from being a disaster. Baldoni found it bitterly ironic that this private, angrily delivered boast later magically appeared in the press at a time when public sentiment was turning against Lively. The implication is clear. Baldoni believes Reynolds or his team planted the story to bolster his image as the savior of the project. The testimony also alleges Reynolds enlisted his friend, director Shawn Levy, in this pressure campaign. According to Baldoni, when he wasn't enthusiastic about a rooftop scene rewrite that Reynolds claimed Blake wrote, Levy called him. Levy allegedly played along with the story that Blake wrote it and advised Baldoni on how to manage Blake on the set. This suggests a coordinated effort to control narrative and behavior through multiple channels. The allegations of intimidation extend far beyond the film set and into the realm of professional coercion, with their talent agency, WME, allegedly used as a weapon. This is perhaps the most legally damning part of the leaked testimony. Both Baldoni and Heath describe a terrifying period where they felt threatened by the power Reynolds and Lively could wield. The testimony centers on a demand that Baldoni release a public statement, apparently drafted by Reynolds and Lively, regarding the on-set controversies. Heath testifies about a call with their agent, Patrick Whitesell, where Whitesell relayed that Reynolds and Lively had feelings and that, unless we fell in line to some degree, the gloves would come off. Heath says he felt so vulnerable and threatened by what he was hearing that he secretly recorded the call for his own protection. He clarifies he didn't feel physically threatened, but threatened by their potential power and next moves. The pressure then escalated. Baldoni testifies that his then-agent at WME, Danny Greenberg, called him. Greenberg allegedly read a statement prepared by Mr. Reynolds and Miss Lively and implied that if Baldoni didn't release it, the gloves would come off. Baldoni's understanding was that Reynolds and Lively had threatened to leave WME entirely if he didn't comply. Here's where the financial motive becomes starkly clear. The testimony breaks down the math. Ryan Reynolds, as a top-tier star, earns tens of millions per film. His agent's 10% commission on a $30 million payday is $3 million. Blake Lively's fee for this film was $1.75 million, netting the agency about $175,000. Justin Baldoni's fee was significantly lower, with the agency making perhaps $30,000. The economic reality was undeniable. Reynolds and Lively were the multi-million-dollar clients. Baldoni was not. The implied threat, as pieced together from the testimony, was a brutal business ultimatum. Force your minor client, Baldoni, to take the public fall for our issues, or we, your major cash cows, will walk out the door and take our future tens of millions in commissions with us. Heath says it felt like they were being triangulated by WME against the powerful duo. Baldoni confirms this pressure, stating he was told there were multiple calls from the agency saying that if he didn't release the statement, Reynolds and Lively would leave WME. This testimony, if proven, suggests a severe abuse of power and economic influence, using an agency as a bludgeon to force a colleague into a false confession. It's no wonder, as the script points out, that WME and Sony are desperate to have their communications and this testimony sealed. It shows the ugly, money-driven mechanics of Hollywood damage control. The leaked depositions also pull back the curtain on the gossip and reputation war that fueled this entire scandal, suggesting that Blake and Ryan's difficult reputation is an open secret in Hollywood circles. A fascinating part of Baldoni's testimony involves a call with veteran publicist Stephanie Jones. He was venting about his difficult experiences on set with Lively. In response, Jones allegedly went into Mama Bear mode, badmouthing Lively and Reynolds. Most shockingly, Baldoni recalls Jones sharing industry gossip that Mr. Reynolds had terrorized The Rock or something to that extent, referencing Dwayne Johnson, supposedly over a letter and press commitments. This moment is crucial. It wasn't Baldoni spreading rumors. It was a seasoned industry insider affirming that his negative experience was part of a known pattern. Jones reportedly told him that everyone's had a bad experience with her, advising him to just push through because the movie would be successful anyway. This testimony shatters the illusion of industry-wide support and suggests Lively's allegedly challenging behavior is a topic of insider discussion. Furthermore, Baldoni testifies that when he shared the story of being confronted for asking a trainer about Lively's weight for a lifting scene, which sparked a major conflict, Jones couldn't believe it was even an issue. Instead of lecturing him on sensitivity, she allegedly doubled down on criticizing Lively. This testimony directly contradicts the narrative that Baldoni and Heath were rogue operators planting negative stories. The lawyers for Lively and Reynolds try to suggest in the cross-examination that Jones was maybe high on pain medication from surgery when she said these things, or that the leaker was actually author Colleen Hoover. They even float a theory that their own publicist, Leslie Sloan, was manipulated into blaming Jones. But the core takeaway from Baldoni and Heath remains: they were receiving validation and shocking gossip from established professionals who confirmed their perception of Reynolds and Lively as bullies. This context makes the earlier allegations of intimidation far more believable. It wasn't a one-off event, but behavior that fit a reputation known to others. The filing of these particular documents, focusing on the Shane Norman side issue, now feels like a spectacular misdirection. Norman was an employee with his own lawsuit, and Blake and Ryan's team seems to want to highlight that to paint Baldoni and Heath's environment as problematic. But that point is drowned in an ocean of testimony that shows Reynolds allegedly screaming at a colleague to apologize for things he didn't do, of a power couple allegedly threatening to bankrupt their agency to force a confession, and of industry whispers confirming their reputation as terrible. The leak, whether accidental or deliberate, has fundamentally shifted the narrative. It's no longer a he said/she sass about on-set behavior. It's a detailed, sworn account of systemic pressure, economic coercion, and a behind-the-scenes culture of fear and reputation management that is utterly damaging to the Reynolds Lively brand. They wanted a couple of pages about Shane Norman public. They got a 1,000-page indictment of their own alleged conduct instead. So, what's the final takeaway from this chaos? This leak, a potential act of legal self-sabotage, has done more for the public understanding of this case than any PR statement ever could. We're left with two stark realities. First, a staggering breach of privacy and legal protocol that has exposed personal data and confidential business dealings, seemingly originating from the very side that argued for secrecy. Second, and more importantly, a consistent, multi-witness account from the depositions that paints a picture of a powerful couple willing to use extreme pressure, from furious confrontations to alleged economic threats against their own agency, to control the narrative and force others to comply. The court will decide the legal liability, but the count of public opinion may have just been irrevocably swayed by these 1,000 pages of unsealed truth. Tell me everything you're thinking in the comments below. Do you believe this was a genuine mistake, or something more calculated? What's your biggest takeaway from these leaked allegations? Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you want more deep dives like this, and subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss when the next bombshell drops in this wild case. Thanks for watching, guys.